Do you feel like you've lost yourself? Do you feel like certain things just don't hit the same anymore? Certain moments have dulled down, the highs are not as great, or you feel desensitized to them? Does your smile feel a lot more forced, a lot harder to maintain? Do you feel like happiness is a lot more scarce to you? Does your experience feel basically just kind of shit and you feel like it's not something you want to partake in anymore? Does life feel a lot more like a overwhelming task and a lot less like a endless perpetuating state of playfulness? Well, then I guess this video is for you. What if a problem is simply a byproduct of your inacceptance? And I'm not talking about problems like case study problems at school or some shit. I'm talking about in life. What if a problem is simply just you not practicing as much of holistics as you actually can? And by holistics I mean being as holy as you can be, instead of embodying resistance to kind of find an alternative to this path that you do not want to take, to this experience you do not want to experience. What if you allow yourself to experience the shit you experience? And what if it makes you a lot more whole as a person? Because now you don't have this compromise or this button to push that makes you just shut down anymore. Now you know that if someone was to use this against you to compromise you, you know that it won't work, because you know that you've allowed yourself to experience it, and you've allowed yourself to go through it, and you've loved yourself through the experience so that you can release all of the negative emotions that it brought out of you. So now you know that you're a lot more whole as a person, and now you know that you can face literally anything in life. And maybe that is what self-trust is. Maybe that is the source of confidence. Maybe it comes from constantly putting yourself on the front line, constantly being ready to face life and potentially fail. Because yeah, there's no such thing as failure. I just believe it's a form of expansion that we do not like experiencing. I call it growing down. What if you did not lose yourself, but you've been introduced to a new part of yourself that is extremely unfamiliar? And this bad experience was simply a medium of directing you to this part of yourself. And regardless of whether this bad experience happened the way it happened or not, perhaps your entire life that compromise was always there, and that hole in your system, that chink in your armor, was always there, and it took an experience that could push that button to bring that response. And once that response came that you do not know was within you, you got thrown off guard, and then you interpret it as, damn, this was a bad experience that happened to me. I did not perform the way I wished to perform in that moment. Something's not right. Whatever the case may be, whatever happens in that moment, you start to form a belief towards it, saying, I need to do more of this. Perhaps I need to go off the radar more. Perhaps I need to isolate. You know, I've been a victim to that as well. I have fallen short because of my own mind. And basically, I've been under the misconception for a long time that protecting my energy means isolation, when in fact it means exposure. And allowing myself to be exposed to certain experiences that trigger a certain reaction out of me gives me the room to love myself in that moment, to the point where I no longer see this experience as something that I should run from, but I see it as something, I see it as it is. I see it simply as an experience, and the way I interpret it changes, and now I no longer feel compromised by it, and I can accept it. So that brings me back to the point. What if a problem is just a byproduct of your inacceptance? You're failing to accept who you are because you are waiting for a certain moment, you are waiting for a certain experience to grant you more access to discover who you are. Until this happens, I won't love myself. Until this happens, I won't put the work in to be on the top of my game. I don't believe that I can love myself. I don't feel complete. But until I get a romantic partner, I know that even though I don't feel complete, the parts of myself that I thought I did not have, I can exercise onto them. Like what? You are always waiting for some cue to exercise holistics, but you simply just don't want to do it without the cue, without the stimulus. And I wonder why. We have been programmed to act when the stimulus tells us to act. And we have been programmed to feel when the stimulus tells us to feel. We are decalibrated within ourselves, but we are calibrated to act based on the external world. And we have developed a materialistic mind, no, not just in regards to money, but in regards to life circumstances in general. You will choose not to love yourself, you will choose not to be happy simply because a certain experience and a certain circumstance of your life, the fact that it is the way it is, you will choose not to love yourself. But there is no excuse that excuses you from loving yourself, from treating yourself the way you deserve to be treated. So, what are you waiting for? What explanation are you going to give yourself this time to reinforce the fact that you are constantly hiding? To reinforce and justify why you should be hiding instead of accepting your existence? What part of yourself are you going to try and use for self-absorption, to try and make yourself think that this is who you are, until you corrupt yourself by trying to be aware of this virtue, and then you remove the virtue, you derive the virtue from that experience by trying to make yourself overly aware of it, and then you lose the essence that you thought you were in that moment. What if you just stop running? No, this is simple. You can continue doing what you're doing. You can continue inflicting the abuse you think you deserve for even considering to love yourself the way you should be loved. You can continue doing that if you want to. But I'm just proposing an idea. What if you stop resisting this one experience? What if you stop holding on to this one belief? You release control and you allow yourself to be thrown into the abyss. Like people say, you let go and let God, right? What if you let go of the pen and you allow the better writer of the story, the better author of the story, to write it for you? What if you try less to orchestrate and dictate the outcome, and you allow things to commence as they should? Won't that allow you to expand and be who you wish to be long term, instead of you indulging in guilty pleasures to make yourself feel a glimpse of restoration, a glimpse of gratification that you wished you could have experienced in the actual experience that you dreamed of? You can actually find it. You can actually find that experience when you stop looking and you start being. It's just a proposal. It's just me proposing an idea. What do you think? you're gonna continue running, or is this a moment where you say, you know what, fuck it, I'm gonna just be, I'm gonna release control and allow myself to practice holistics? Or will this video and this information just be something that you save and download and forget about, just like all the other identities you've identified with and then abandoned? Is this video gonna be assigned to just one of your other identities again, and then you continue to divide yourself into versions, saying this part of me is the reason why I fucked up, this part of me is the reason why I hold on to things, this part of me is the reason why I run away? Are you going to continue to shift blame to different parts of yourself as if you are not all that you are? Or are you going to take ownership and act, instead of letting your antidote pass by, to continue to justify the fact that you are sick, the fact that you are missing something, the fact that you are living in incoherence, the fact that you are out of sync? Stop practicing justifying why you aren't all that, but then you try and force yourself into believing that you actually want happiness, you actually want bliss, you actually want alignment. If you actually wanted it, right? Or in fact, you're right, you want it, and wanting it implies that you don't have it. So that's why you are in the space that you are in. You are entertaining the lack mindset. But instead of wanting it, if you actually chose it, you know that you can actually choose it. It is part of your nature. You have the option of choosing it. You can choose to actually have that experience. You can choose to actually live in it and embody it. You can choose to actually practice what that version of you would practice, and you can be what you seeked all along. But I think you guys heard me by now. The choice is yours.